My name is Michael Downs. I'm Vice President of Client Solutions with Momentum. We're a national design build firm working almost exclusively with financial institutions. And I'm very honored to be joined by our friends at Empowerify, Hillary, Kelly, and Trent. And they are a full service marketing and branding firm that work with financial institutions. And we're going to hopefully impart some helpful information with you today around branching and marketing and branding and building a business case. So we're really excited about it. During our conversation, just as an administrative, we have at the bottom a chat button. If you have questions as we go through there and want to chat those in, we'll take those at the end and try to get to as many of those as we can. And then we have everybody on mute. So if you're screaming at your screen, it's not that we can't or don't want to hear you, it's we have everyone muted. So with that, we're going to get going. Thanks again. Trent, if you want to go ahead and hop to the next. So just in terms of where we're going to take everyone today and take the conversation, as I mentioned, it's the third in a three-part series that we've put together around branching. And what we've found as we've worked with financial institutions all across the country is, as a design builder, there's a lot of thought, energy, strategy put into design, potentially location selection of a branch, the construction piece of it, how it's going to look. But far too often we find that organizations don't put a lot of emphasis, a lot of thought into the marketing, community outreach, the business development side of it, and quite frankly, really just the internal business case for all the internal stakeholders. And so we thought that would make for a really great conversation. We wanted to bring in our friends from Empowerify and actually talk through a specific client case where we've done that together. So with that, just as a backdrop for the conversation, talking about the role of the branch, right? It's a never-ending debate. Is the branch going away? Long live the branch, all of that. What we know, and there's some data from a few months ago from Simon and Kutcher and partners, where they surveyed bank consumers and looked at where they anticipate doing and conducting their transactions and interacting with their financial institution after the pandemic. Obviously, it's had a big impact operationally on financial institutions. There's been a big emphasis and shift toward digital. But what we're seeing is it hasn't been that dramatic. And really what consumers are saying is the role that we see the branch playing and has played is still going to play that same role for conflict resolution or problem resolution, opening a mortgage. So the numbers in the blue there to the right, those were pre-pandemic numbers versus what was on the right. And you can see it wasn't just a transformative shift. So again, the net of this is the branch, albeit is changing, might be smaller, might be fewer of them in certain markets. It's still a very integral piece of the overall puzzle. So if you can go to the next slide, Trent. And I'll go quickly through this. With that said, the branch is still something, it's a sentinel for your organization. People want certain things out of a branch. Those things aren't changing. It's going to take a different, play a little bit different role in how they interact with your brand. And first and foremost, it's a place, Trent, if you can switch to the next, it's really all about an experience because, you know, as you're looking at here, the Apple Store, the new design for the Apple Store, people can buy products online. They can, of course, conduct business with your organization in a multitude of ways online, but they're looking for an experience when they come in there, and a positive experience.
Yeah, I really, if I can jump in there, Mick, I really think that the idea of the Apple Store is so sound because you, like you said, you could buy these at Best Buy, right? All of the products that you see there, you could buy online. But people, I went to I was in Florida right near the start of the pandemic, and the only thing that was different was there were more people and a lot more masks being worn. And what I noticed was people are there to not only to the experience, some of the people were there to resolve or get a resolution to something. Maybe you had mentioned conflict. I think of it more like an experience and resolution center, and that's what I've found the best banking branches are, is a spot for someone to come in and ask a question about a loan, to also experience the brand. You know, I had a situation the other day where you'd think, oh, we're all online now. Well, I was getting an auto loan from a very reputable place, and I just felt like, you know, if I could walk down there and talk to someone, I would do that right now, because it just didn't go perfectly online. And also I just want that human contact. So it's not, I don't believe it's dead at all. And you know, this is a little bit of a case study for those of you then on the call here. The reason Momentum had asked us at Empowerify to co-present today is because we work with a client called New Alliance Federal Credit Union. We know we have some bankers on the call today, and so if we slip into if we say member, consumer is what we're going to try and say, because we feel it. Where credit, you might call them a member, you might call them a customer. The case is really the same, and we hope you can take a lot out of this. We will make some references to this client because they had a very specific use case. Their board came to the two of us, our companies, and said, we really want to make sure we're not making an emotional decision. Can you help us? And we want to make sure that we're infusing data and strategy in our decisions. And that's really the essence of what we do at Empower. Is we try and make strategic decisions based on data so that we can help our clients. And they did some really unique things. There's a project charter that Momentum helped them build straight away. We talked about brand differentiators. Everything from staffing to financial projections came up, and we compiled all of that into one big plan and wrote an actual business plan for the new office. And what we found was it was transformative for the entire place. Advertising, of course, was a piece of it, engagement, but even things from along the line of what about exit strategies or modeling into the future came up, and it all got put in that robust plan. And it was really a great way for us to start working with Momentum in that way through this client in the Pittsburgh metro region. So some of what you'll see today will be based on what happened there.
Yeah, so making the case for a branch, we don't just go out and say, we want a new branch and build a branch, right? Like Trent said, a lot of times, sometimes we want a new branch for emotional reasons. How many times have we heard the board of directors say, I need a branch in my backyard, right? So making the case will help take the emotion out of it. But also, in today's age, when everybody is shifting to mobile, right? And branch transactions are down. Why build a branch? Branches are not dead, but why build a branch? So that's the whole point of making a case, making a business case, making a marketing case, aligning the goals of that branch build with your corporate overarching goals. So why do people branch? Things like that. You're going to want to infuse strategy into making the case for this branch. So if transactions are reducing and people are going to mobile, you can have both. You can have both a branch and have these things happen, but why, right? So if they're not coming to the branch to actually transact, why do they branch? Sales. Ultimately, they want to be sold to and we want to sell to them. So let's make a case for that. That involves utilizing data-driven strategies and decisions. When in doubt, basically infuse plenty of data into making the case. And we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, this particular client, and if you're building your case and you're building your best if whether it be a written branch plan or a presentation you're going to give to a board, consider this. Start with leveraging all the data that you have available, and there are partners out there that you can use. Demographics, household data, everything from membership density, or in the case of if you're a bank, it would be consumer density. You can see here some of what came out of their plan. This is an actual screenshot showing the way that they were looking at thematic maps, median household income, down to projected household change. And then you have the ability as well in our modern age to not only look at some of these statistical, the data that's out there that's pretty readily available, but you need to compile it. You can also now use AI and machine learning to make a really strong case for where you might want to go.
Yeah, thanks, Trent. And so we're going to talk now about harnessing the power and synergy of a partner, right, that affords you the luxury and the education of big data. So where the rubber meets the road on the data is that you want to make sure that you're looking at data that manifests itself from behavioral-based machine learning, right? That's the whole point. We're here to learn. Knowledge is power. So those are two key important items there. And where a partnership is concerned, really the pillars of a partner that affords you artificial intelligence software, service bureau model. Otherwise, you're going to have to figure out, hire, train, staff a data analyst in-house, and actionable insights. So you want to be able to output data that you can actually use in your communications and marketing plans.
Yeah, it used to just be all the metropolitan statistical data, and then you had someone comb through it with you. And now that you can add AI and machine learning, you can really end up with some key takeaways that are definitive. And this is just a screenshot from that plan that we mentioned before. But the board that had said we don't want to make an emotional decision, well, they were able to look then in pretty real terms and say, hey, what's the red? The red is never good in a report like this, right? And indeed, for them, they started seeing that their target area was declining. The trade areas that they were thinking about going into were declining. They had one branch in an area that had way more people who worked there and not enough who lived. And usually you want a nice balance between the two. And what they found was that we kicked back and showed them a closure analysis. And it's a little grainy there, but I think you can tell that 75.2% year one retention, the red, that was basically showing them that the one branch that they had was not going to be profitable into the future. And here's where the emotion actually did come in. The emotion was closing a branch that they had really enjoyed for a lot of years, right? So they knew they'd have members upset. They knew they'd have some of their consumers who were not happy. But I once heard when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else, maybe without even knowing. And in their case, it was this. Look at this way that the data came together, and it showed them a whole new area of Pittsburgh where they could approach that only had one or two banks, and in their case, no other credit unions in a lot of the area. And so what they decided was, well, let's stop saying yes to keeping an unprofitable branch open, and let's say yes to something new. And we helped them see the 21 different areas that they could go within the parameters that they had looked for. And what they found was number 20 fit perfectly. It's right there. It's called Butler Street and 42nd. Number 20 on the map is what they picked. And it also comes down to being able to get the property, right? So they found that everything just lined up perfectly to go there. And so that's where, if there was an emotion involved, it was one of excitement, because they knew they were going to be able to build in a fresh location in an area that has high retail. And this is different for this credit union. This is a credit union that's very like so many, that's very traditional, let's say, a lot of in their branch approach. So going into a full retail center in Lawrenceville, Pennsylvania, which is in the heart of Pittsburgh, is a really exciting proposition for them. This is an area with bistros and a big anchor where people live and work because they work at the University of Pittsburgh Children's Medical Center in this part of town. And you just have all these outdoor dining options, and even with COVID, it's still really lively. So this is a pretty exciting thing for this credit union to be able to move into an area like that. And it all came because of the fact that they looked first and took a hard look in the mirror at the data. You know, the mirror, sometimes we wish it could lie, but it doesn't, does it? but in this case, it showed them a place they could go, a projection for their future. And Mick, I was hoping you could talk to everybody about the project charter. I put this slide in here because I thought this was really unique what Momentum did with New Alliance. This was as we were coming on board, they had this, they showed me their project charter and I really liked it. And I was hoping you could tell our people on the
Yeah, thanks, Trent. I mean, really one of the standard anchors of our process at Momentum is around strategic alignment and getting all the different stakeholders in an organization aligned around a common charter or vision for the project. And we will literally write a project charter together with the client. And we have not posted the project charter here verbatim for New Alliance, just from confidentiality standpoint. But the gist of it is that they were really wanting to focus on families, provide financial education, and really build upon their brand differentiators. But the takeaway here is that the project really started by getting everyone on the team that was going to have some sort of influence or interaction with this particular branch to be in the room and get aligned around that common vision. And that was the catalyst, the starting point, if you will, to go forward. Because nothing's worse than going down a road with a project and 6 months down the road and someone says, hey, wait, you didn't consider my input, or you forgot about this. So we try to really address all that on the front end.
And that's happened, right? Where people say, you didn't ask us, and we're the ones that live in this branch every day. So
Right.
it's really important to do. And then Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about how marketing and BD play a role here. And I think that, we can talk about what was marketing. If at first you don't succeed, try again. That's no longer. What is now is you need a plan, you need a partner, and you need a backup plan. You want to make sure that you have practical sides to your planning. Always include the staples, onboarding, reboarding, retention, attrition. And then you have the conceptual side, right? So don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, test, R&D, take demos. Again, that's something that a partner with the Service Bureau model has and can bring to the table for you.
I think if I can jump in here real quick, something that we often forget when we're building branches is to include marketing, right? Marketing can often be an afterthought. We're building this branch and then marketing, you're responsible for doing something later with that branch, right? So when you're building the branch, depending on your branching timeline, build extra marketing budget dollars in for the branch. Prior to the branch launch, post launch, and then ongoing, your marketing budget should inevitably be increased going forward if you have an additional branch. Your branch managers, your staff there can certainly help with the business development opportunities, but we so often forget that marketing should really be boosted every time you build a branch so that they can effectively do their job for the branch as well.
Yeah, I remember one time we built a branch at a place that I worked, and afterward we came in and we said, well, they said, well, we figured you put some posters on that wall. And we said, there's not even space to put a poster on the wall, and then, let alone, and then later on we convinced them to let us use screens so that we could do some digital advertising. But the screen was not the size we would have ever picked, right? And it was things like that. That can happen with sometimes if you don't get the right people right at the start. So in New Alliance's case, they found that this whole process was transformative. It no longer was just about building the branch. It was about looking in the mirror at their entire business. And what they found for their credit union was they wanted to take the things that made them unique. They are very integral in their community in charitable giving. They're great with getting out and getting involved. So they said, well, how do we play that up? And it fits really well with the place that the data showed them they should build in that Lawrenceville area, because now they have a chance to go and not only be involved, they can help augment and even host activities and charitable giving efforts at their branch. So they really wanted to bring that in and get involved locally with even more. And that gave them an opportunity to say, well, wait, if we're going to get that involved locally and people are going to start seeing us more, how does our website look? What about our tagline? What about, so they had this for years, this idea that they wanted to have "Come Grow With Us" be their tagline. And they knew they needed a new website. They knew they needed a phone app. And I commend them for being so courageous. They did all of that at once. So right when they started down this path, they said, let's get the rest of our house in order so that when people do come to the new branch, they also can enjoy a really fresh online experience. And the reason for them that the mascot works that we helped create was because they didn't want to be bogged down compliance wise with wondering, who do we put in this ad? Should we use a mother? Should we use a father? Should we use, you can get in that zone sometimes with marketing. And what they said is, well, the mascot can do anything. So put her in an airplane and fly her over the city of Pittsburgh. And so for them, it's working because it brings in families. But for you, it might not work. But you have to take that hard look. And I really think they were courageous in improving some of those things. It even changed how they viewed staffing. Across their entire model. They started saying things like, well, what if we had something called a universal rep? And what if that universal rep could do a lot more? And what if they were like a Swiss Army knife of an employee that could do more than just be a teller? What if they could sell? What if they could help close a mortgage? What if they could help close other loans and apply and show people around our brand and help them live it? So that's something that I think that banking, the retail banking, has been great at over the years. I remember serving on some chambers of commerce boards with some people, and it seemed like the bankers always understood, like, get involved, get your staff into the community. And sometimes credit unions are, I guess, more shy. And I found though that over the years you've started to see this shift to where all financial institutions realize it starts with and ends with your staff. If you're going to get involved in the community, have the same people that are involved be back at that retail facility. And this is how their universal reps kind of shook out. They said, let's get them. This is from their branch business plan. Everything from have them assist with transactions to have them assist the manager with the outreach, and everything in between. So you can kind of take some of that in, and we can swing back around if we want at the end. But just in the interest of time, I'll show you kind of a snapshot of what the branch manager would be doing there. They not only wanted the branch manager to be attending events, and to be coaching this team effectively, but everything from taking loan apps and closing on higher ticketed loans. They also see this branch manager then as someone who will be on the Chamber of Commerce board, who will be representing them at events in accordance with their other business development team that comes from the main office. So kind of a new approach for them for New Alliance.
So taking a look at branch goals, obviously everything we're doing in the branch, we want to align with the organizational goals. So like I said before, you don't just go build a branch if you don't think it's going to help your organizational goals. But I think with setting goals, we want to talk about looking beyond just new member accounts, right? That's not new customer accounts. It's not the end all be all. Perhaps if your goal with a branch like this would be more engagement, perhaps you want less transactions. You want your universal tellers to have the chance to build relationships and engage. Then maybe you want to see less transaction and more engagement, more share of wallet, more loan conversions, more issues being resolved in the branch. Net Promoter Score is another really great one to take a look at. How satisfied are your customers or members? So it's beyond member accounts, member cross sales. And I think it's also important to look at fee income as well. And if you are building a new branch, taking a look at your fees before you open the branch can be really, really crucial. because the last thing you want people to think is, boy, they opened this new branch and now they have to increase their fees so they can pay for it. So taking a look at your fee schedule before you build a branch and incorporating those new fees, perhaps. New product development is also a really great opportunity here, and you can build goals around those things as well. So the whole idea is to look beyond just accounts, beyond members, beyond customers, and look a little bit further into engagement goals.
Yeah, and along with that, one of the things that is critically important, obviously, when you're making the decision and building a business case around a particular branch and or location is, projecting out and doing financial projections. And these are some screenshots from projections that we put together at Momentum for New Alliance. And we do quite a bit of this for most of our clients. And really looking at, the cost of acquisition of a particular property, what the demand in the market based on the data shows. So what kind of realistic expectations can be set and KPIs can be set, to Hillary's point, for that branch, and then modeling that out over an 8 to 10 year period to look at, okay, what is the net present value of this investment, and does it make financial sense to our bottom line as an organization to embark on this project?
Yep. So now when you've got your finances in order and you've got your budget in hand, we want to talk about advertising strategies. Strategically map out your marketing plan, your marketing calendar. You need to make sure that you have a 360 global view on multifaceted, multi-channel, clear communication cadence that addresses current members and customers and also prospects, right? So we talked about those staple inclusions before in your marketing budget, like retention, attrition, acquisition. So you want to, you want to take and make sure that you have all of that mapped out. And then Trent, if you can flip to the next slide, some additional strategies, you want to make sure that you include that AI data and that partnership, right? So you can leverage the data across all products and services across the entire organization globally. It doesn't just serve marketing, it serves the whole organization and ties back into the strategic growth of the organization. And again, hitting those KPIs.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, it's so important to take all the data available, especially if you have people who can help you synthesize it. I even was thinking a little bit about what you were just saying, Mick, having a partner like Momentum in that case that can actually step in and say, yeah, your net present value isn't going to work. It's okay. We don't have to build the branch. Having that level of confidence in your partners is so vital. And one of the things that we put back into the New Alliance plan for their branch, we had gotten so far down the road with talking about all of those, that roadmap that Kelly just showed you, and really bringing together all of the pieces of the marketing plan. We didn't want to forget this fact too. They have a business development team, and that team is going to be out pounding the pavement. And I think there's no substitute for that. That's my background, so I'm a little biased, but coming from a background in sales and business development, that idea that the stronger your brand, the better your results is so real. You can't just go out with the tired old brand and say, well, people will see our sign and come into the new branch. It's not going to work. What happens is a lot of times places say, well, go take this to some of the big employers in the region, or go to the Chamber of Commerce and get some people to join and come and use our services. And it's like, well, if you just slap a little brand on stuff you already do, people can see through that. If you tell employees like, this is our employee program, and it's really not, they can tell. So you got to think from a business development standpoint of how to build a plan or a program, maybe actually for employees in the region. That combines your charitable giving. I see all the time, and we've seen this, where the CEO or someone wants to give some money away to XYZ charity because their cousin's part of it, and then and before you know it, your budget's zapped, and you say to yourselves, why didn't we give the charitable funds to the very places that work with us, that have said they will send their employees to bank with us. That's where you give the charitable funds, right? Make a strategic plan based on charitable giving, and then inform the staff. If you're going to be out knocking on doors and attend, and if that branch manager is doing their job and they're going to be out and about, they should tell the staff exactly where they're going, who they're speaking with, so that way the staff's invited to participate if possible, and or they're watching for the people that'll come back in the door. So I just want to make that
And
little piece.
I think
Go
it's
ahead.
really important to note when you have a branch manager at a new branch, taking someone who was a branch manager previously at another branch may not always work. It's a new environment, it's a new situation. And if you're going to have them out in the community, then you should expect that their branch duties should be reduced a bit. So a lot of times this could call for an assistant branch manager or somebody to back them up. So this can be a really great business model and can work really well. As long as you have the right person. And sometimes a branch manager isn't always that right person. Sometimes you have to hire a salesperson that can also do branch duties, right? But reducing the amount of branch work that is required of that branch manager is going to be one of the only things that's going to allow them to get into that community and start developing relationships.
It's true, and they have to work with maybe the corporate side of business development and marketing. You got the people back at the main office. Well, maybe you find a branch manager who's great when you take them to events. But I've found too that if we were talking about partners, if you don't have the right partner, you're kind of lost, because they can tell you things like, hey, you could hire someone from retail that will be better than that person you're thinking of promoting. I've seen that before, where people like Momentum will step in and say, maybe you should look down the street at some of the boutiques and hire one of the great salespeople from there and just train them into your system. So this is the exterior rendering of their branch. It's kind of fun. My eye always goes to the cartoon dog in the window. So he's having a good time. So it's going to be a pet friendly branch. And because they were working with Momentum, actually, Momentum even gave them an idea to, this is a little bit older rendering. They're now going to be dropping the entire floor, and that's going to be a garage that can roll up so people can walk in right from the street. And that's going to improve airflow. It's going to be even better for future pandemic proofing. So pretty bold to do that, but they're going to drop the entire floor a couple of 3 feet there, and it's going to just be outstanding for them. So that was another piece that happened while we were writing the plan. The pandemic hit, and we had to start looking to Momentum and saying, well, what will change for the pandemic, and can we buy shields like that, and can we, how do we what's the best way to clean off these machines, or what type of machines should we maybe look to using that we weren't thinking of before. The other thing there, I have the second bullet point, says exit strategy. Most financial institutions, bigger ones, can handle this better than the medium size and smaller. You should always have a plan to exit. Maybe you make the changes to this branch like they're doing to make it more retail oriented. Maybe that's perfect. If it doesn't work out, they can sell it to a retail facility, right, to a restaurant or someone. And so they thought like that, and they liked that we brought that to the table. I think their board saw that that's taking the emotion out of it. Let's talk about that. And what about the modeling? If this works, can we take it elsewhere in the city or not? Is it going to just be a one-off for that one location? You have to think of that. Timing actually is so vital, right? If you're not right on top of it, you have to ask yourselves tough questions like, what is the cost of doing the branch? What is the cost of not doing it? And in their case, they waited. We didn't show you that part, but they did wait, and they lost one of those locations. They went with number 20, but there was another number on the list that they wanted really badly, and it sold before they could snap it up because they were delaying. And so when we made the case to their board, one of the things that was said was, the emotional decision then becomes doing nothing, doesn't it? Because that's the emotion of fear. And they agreed, and now they're building the branch. So there's my favorite cartoon dog. So we're going to take you on a little, just quickly through the branch, just so you can get a feel for what they're trying to achieve.
So when you're looking at these branch images, I think you want to, take yourself back to the goals that we talked about before. Are your goals less transactions, more engagement? Is it about getting additional loans? Is it about being in the community? So, this particular branch here, you can see on the right, is really community-based. Think about things like hosting community events. Is your branch set up to host community events? What about the most popular thing now is remote work, working from home? Can they sit and have coffee and work there? And maybe that's not the goal of your branch. Maybe the goal is just a resolution center or things like that. But really tying the branch back to your goals. That's why it's really, really important to set these goals ahead of time before you even get to this part of designing your branch. You know, something I was thinking about here is the waiting area. The smaller the waiting area, the more confidence people are going to have that their issues are going to be handled quickly, right? So if you have this large waiting area, they're looking around thinking, how many people does this waiting area fit and what number and line am I, right? So a smaller waiting area, a place for people to sit, a community area where people can engage with one another. I can tell you this, that if you build it, they will come is not true. People will not set foot into your branch out of curiosity. They might look at it and go by and see your brand, but they're not going to set foot in there. And traditional bank branch models don't work that way either, right? We don't want people casing the joint. We don't want people popping in if they're not members. So typically we go like this when we think about people coming into our branch. So that mentality has to be completely changed. If you want community in here and you want people walking in, you have to give them a reason to walk in. So think about that. It ties back to the business development, to the marketing, the events that you're having. I think the resolution center there is really key, because why are people coming into your branch? If they're not doing regular transactions, because those are severely declining, mobile is up, why are they coming into the branch? It would be for those large ticket loan items, mortgages, where they need a private space. They have a major issue that they need a resolution center. So perhaps in addition to a few ITMs or maybe one teller that can help a transaction, a private resolution center like this is really a great idea, and having the rest be very communal. All right, so final thoughts. We talked about a lot of things, but I think the key here is to look beyond. So when it comes to the alignment of the stakeholders and your partners, getting everybody on the same page, the first thing you want to do is look beyond emotion, right? When you're building a branch, look beyond emotion. Leveraging all of the data, look beyond your core system, look beyond the transaction numbers. You want to look at behaviors. You want to look at things way more beyond the transaction numbers and what even your core transactional information provides. Getting in touch with your brand. It's beyond the look and feel. It's the goals of your brand. It's how you want your individuals to speak. It's, do you want your branch manager counting money, or do you want them out in the community? So look beyond the look and feel of your brand. Setting clear and realistic goals. We talked about that as well. Look beyond the standard numbers. Look beyond just the accounts and the members. And then integrated process, marketing, business development. Look beyond your standard budget. I would say that's really key, is making sure that you look beyond just this year when it comes to budgeting for a new branch and integrating it into the rest of your strategic plan. So look beyond just the launch of the branch.
Yeah, and just one note real quickly, Hillary, on that integrated process piece is, you know, at Momentum, we're really huge advocates of integrating all of the different partners and stakeholders into the process. And in the case of New Alliance, we certainly have done that and are doing that with Empowerify. But when you think about the construction process and the design process and all the, you know, intricacies that go into that, the more we can align those schedules to really be timed out accordingly around business development and marketing and promotion, just the greater success is going to be for that particular branch. So it's just a great point.
Yeah, Michael, I even have a slide in here that I didn't show, which I'm going to embarrass you with. This is one of the planning nerds at Momentum's Gantt charts. So if you really want to build it out, they'll help you do that. And in the case of if you're looking to bring in complex marketing and things like that, you can do that as long as you just take the time, maybe when you're ramping up to the branch build, to get it all aligned. So do we have time for questions, Michael?
Yeah, we've got a couple minutes here. Get one or two in. So in regards to data, what are the right data resources? How do you determine what the right, right sources of data should be? So, I mean, that's a question for, I guess you, Trent, or
Sure.
Hillary.
Well, maybe Kelly or anyone could jump in, but I find data is so nuanced now that you need to ask before you even seek the data, what are we looking to determine? and then ask yourself, like Kelly was showing you, she was showing some pretty de novo ways, right? There's the opportunity to use, who would have ever thought, artificial intelligence now that looks at all these consumer behaviors and it overlays it over the top of the traditional data. But why do we want to know that? So make sure to ask for a demo. Like you could call up companies and they'll give you a demo. Ask them for a sample report, a sample output report.
Yeah.
And then with that, I think, Kelly, just going back to what you were showing is, yeah, you can now take all of these crazy data points that a human mind would have never even seen the correlation, and you can say, hey, there are more people that like dogs in the Lawrenceville area than you thought, so make the branch dog friendly. I think that's the idea, right?
Well, and that's exactly right. And I think to second part to answer that, again, take the emotion out of it, sit down and set your goals, and then find a partner, find someone that can help you navigate the opportunities and the pitfalls and educate you on the big data, because big data is here, it's here to stay. And it's something that, smaller to mid-sized financial institutions now have access to. So that's great. So, you just have to look at, again, like Trent said, demos, and we talked about the pillars of the data and the pillars of a partnership. So I think that's really important. And then, of course, plan and backup plan.
And if I had to say with data, my biggest thing would be to diversify the data that you're using. So between your core provider and MCIF, artificial intelligence, the more diverse your data, the more information you're going to be able to glean.
Yeah, that's great. So we'll probably have time for one more, maybe we can squeeze in two, but one, how do you properly identify the appropriate partners, as you referred to, stakeholders, vendors to include in the process? And I can take that one. I mean, the more people that you can involve, we found in the process, the better in terms of stakeholders. But from a local perspective and in New Alliance's perspective, it was really important to remain local and true to their local roots, which is probably the case with most retail financial institutions, is having that tie into the community. And one of the things that we're really big about at Momentum is really including and using local vendors. So whether it's everything from artwork, from local artists that can be incorporated into the design of the branch, obviously local trades, but bringing in all of those folks into that process is really important to really creating that overall community feel. And then, of course, from an organizational standpoint, frontline staff to executives, just can't stress enough, just don't leave out people that are going to actually be working day in and day out for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day in a branch. Don't exclude them from the process.
Yeah, I think that's huge, Michael. And I think that at, Empowerify, Hillary and I really, from a marketing standpoint, whenever we do brand, rebrand logos, we really encourage our clients to create a committee, a rebrand committee that does include and has buy-in from every level of the organization. And the front line is absolutely key. So right on point there.
I hope you guys don't mind a little whiplash there. I was popping back to this beginning, kind of ending where we began, right, Michael? We as executives, as branch people, as marketing people, what we think of sometimes is we think top down, and we think, look at the difference of this chart. If for many of us, we would say, especially as marketing people, oh, well, the music's going to be important. The amenities, like having a coffee shop in the branch, is going to be important. The consistency is going to be important. We think that because we are the ones who put up the signage, and we're the ones who live in that world. But look what's most important to people. It's the staff. You got to think bottom up. And that's what I was hearing you say, Michael, was start with the staff, start with the frontline people that are going to be in that branch every day, and talk to them about what a branch could really be. And when you do that, when you flip the script that way, I think you'll end up answering that question. I think you'll end up with the exact right people on board. Start with the staff first. Think bottom up.
Yeah. Well, I think we're about out of time. I really appreciate everyone hanging in here. I know the day and age of COVID, everyone's kind of zoomed out, and holding someone's attention for 45 minutes is a big ask, but really thankful for that. We're going to make a recording of this available. It will be on our blog, and then I'm sure Hillary, you and your team will make it available in some form. If anyone wants the slides, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to send this material out. And then you can, of course, contact us with any questions that come up after this if you think of something after it. But again, we really big thanks to our co-hosts from Empowerify, Trent, Kelly, Hillary. It was really a pleasure having you guys join us. And everyone else, have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week.
Yep.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good day,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you.
Nice seeing everyone. Stay warm.